Hello, everybody. Happy new week, and welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show. The show that is brought to you by the Mirai Tulekima Global Leadership Organization, and we make sure to bring you people who have stories of triumph or who can share a knowledge that is really going to help you to go to the next level of your greatness. My name is Mirai Tulekima. You should know me by now. I'm broadcasting from Perth, and today we're going to Canada. We're going to Canada. Our guest is from there, and we're going to talk about having the right mindset for to do business. And my guess is seven figure mindset mentor. So you really want to have your some paper and a pen ready to take notes. And she's also the co-founder of Deep Food Strategy, and you're gonna learn so much from her. And that's why really get ready. If you have any question, if you can watch live, just ask this question, give your opinion, give us some insight if there's something that you really want to add to the conversation. For those who are going to watch the recording, same, you can put any comment that you have in the comment section, and we will make sure that it's addressed at a certain point. So let's not wait too much. I'm gonna bring Jen, and that's her name. That's the name of my guest, Jayne Lowell. I'm gonna bring her today, and I anticipate to have a great conversation with her. So don't go anywhere. I'm bringing Jayne here. Welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, the show that is brought to you by the Mirai Telekima Global Leadership Organization.
Feel is important is if you just look at the word compassion, when it's behavior, it's something that can be learned, and it is something that we can embody through habits and through our daily actions.
Like, what can I do now with this all experiences that that I have? And for me, it's knowing who I am, believing in myself, and trust, and have confidence that yes, this has happened.
To get this idea that if we interject this wisdom intentionally, I call them needle movers. It's the needle mover that's missing.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, Jayne, to the Greatness Engineering Hour show. I'm so happy to host you today because I know that we're going to talk about a very important subject and a lot, a subject of real interest, especially in this time of challenges with the pandemic. So really having the right mindset is very important for business owners and entrepreneurs. So before we get to this point, just want you to introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, and what are the key things that we need to know about you.
Thank you so much, Maria. That's a really beautiful welcome. Love the video. Really great energy. As you know, it's 7:30 in the a.m. for me, where I am in Canada, and really excited. I was up early at 5 this morning. I wanted to get prepared and have lots of energy for your crowd this morning, and just really be able to share with them some of the insights that I've come up with, along the way. So I guess my claim to fame is that I started a business from nothing. And within the first year, we were doing 1.5 million, and we quickly went to about $5.5 million, and we plateaued there for about 15 years. And most people would say, "Well, that's really awesome, and that's great. What did you need to worry about? Getting a higher sales volume?" Well, we were manufacturing clothing, and 15 years into our business, things had changed dramatically, and the margins weren't the same. And our business was originally a domestic business produced here in Canada, and within about 10 years, we had to go offshore. So we were traveling all over the world, and paying costs were high. Fuel costs were high, transporting it back to North America, and so we really needed to double our sales in order to pay our people and to continue to grow as a company. And everybody in the company said, "Jayne, there's no way." We were selling all majors. We were selling the big people like, Walmart and Kmart and Sears and those kind of people. And there was nobody else. They were actually gobbling up the little people. And so it wasn't like we could change our marketing strategy or, we could do something different. And so I thought, well, what is it that I have to do? And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to just go and take a course in sales. I'm going to figure out how to sell better. I'm going to do something different. And I went down and I took a course down in Arizona in the US. And it was with a guy named Tom Hopkins, wonderful guy, but he's all about direct sales, insurance, real estate, nothing to do with what I was doing. And I learned within the first probably 10 minutes that this was not what I needed. But there was a business coach that came on the stage, and I'd never done any personal development. Imagine 15 years into business, never had any clue about personal development, and said, "This is what I need. I need a business coach." Came back up to Montreal, Canada, hired myself a business coach, and within that 1 year took the business from 5.5 million to 11.4. And it was purely by changing my mindset. And then, as you know, and I guess we'll get into this, further on, I lost it all in between 2010 and 2012, and had to start all over again. And I just am such a believer that mindset is what shifts everything for you, because if you don't have the right mindset, you really have nothing. Oh, I can't hear you, Murray.
This is really amazing because sometimes we don't really realize that we actually have control on, a lot of things, but we are not always aware, or we are afraid, of taking this control. And one of the things that I want to ask you through this process where you got control, you taken control of your
Right.
business. What was the most challenging, and how did you address it to go to the next level and finally, manage your fear and just go and do it?
Right. So, for me, I think it was two-part. When I had the business and I was, doubling the sales, there was two things. One was what I call the dream stealers. So all of my employees that worked in the business with us, we had about 20 at that time, they really did not believe that this was possible. And it was me who had to hold the vision that this was possible, that we could do this. And I did that by creating a 12-foot wall in my office that was empty. And I put Bristol board with the sales for the year. And we had graphic artists that worked for us. So every time I sold an item, I would have them create an image for me. And I would put that image up on the wall in the appropriate month with the number of sales. And they got to watch over the year how we just kept doing the sales. And, I had a projection every month of what it was we had to do, and they could actually see it happening. So, by about month 6, they got really excited. Now they could see this was going to happen. So that was my first objection I had. And then I think the second objection was my own mindset. I thought, because I had started from nothing, I thought I had this really solid mindset and that I could do anything. And But I think what's true is it doesn't matter if your business is $50,000, if it's $100,000, if it's $500,000, if it's $1 million, if it's 20 million. It doesn't matter. At some point, you have a plateau, and at some point, your mindset has to shift. And so, I could easily get to that 5.5 million. I kept it there for 15 years. That's where my mindset was at. But in order to actually double the business, I really had to work on myself. And what I learned about myself was that I didn't trust other people. And, this is where I created what I call the 7-figure mindset formula. And it's really about going back into your past and looking at all the places that you've had a life event and something's happened because of that life event. And now you create a limiting belief around it. And so I had to figure out what were my life events and what limiting beliefs did I create. And my thing was around trust. I didn't trust other people. I used to say, I'm the best salesperson. How can I let somebody go in and sell my majors? So once I figured that out, I actually hired 3 account managers, one for Walmart, one for Kmart, and one for Sears. And they were on the ground. They knew the buyers. They knew when their budgets opened up. They knew how we could serve them. They knew what we were, when they were looking for something, a promotion, whatever it was. And of course, I would still go and, meet with the buyers and have high level meetings. But this way we could actually service these retailers that before I was spread so thin. But I didn't realize that because I really thought that I had to do everything. I didn't know that I could actually, or I didn't want to give it over to somebody else. So those were the 2 things I really had to learn.
And the control issue is really the one that we struggle a lot with, because especially when you started to as a small business, and then you basically did everything yourself,
right?
And when comes the time to upscale, that's the blockage to, like you said, to trust new people to come and help you, because you're really looking at perfection at yourself.
Right.
And you think that nobody can do it better than you, and that's a crazy thing to think about. And a lot of entrepreneurs actually basically lose everything, lose their business at this level, because they are incapable of going to the next level in terms of their business model, integrating other people and getting help, outsourcing in a way. So what do you think are the key steps, when an entrepreneur reach this stage, where they basically plateau and they need to change things? So what do you think are the steps that they need to take to stop, plateauing?
Yeah, great question. So this is when I created what I call the 7-figure mindset formula. And basically it's an acronym, and it's affirm your future. And the A stands for acknowledge. So the thing that I think that, most people, when they reach a plateau, they have to start with acknowledging that there's actually something that's staying in their way. And oftentimes people don't do that. Oftentimes people will say, it's not me, it's, somebody else. I don't, they don't even know that there's a problem. So that's the first thing you have to do, is actually acknowledge that there's something that maybe is holding you back, that you're not even sure what it is, but there's something there. So that's where I tell people to start. And then what I get people to do is find their life events from very early, 2 years old, 3 years old. There's different stages. We have a time between 2 and 5, and then 5 and 10, and 10 in our teenage years, where we really have a lot of life events, stories that happen that shape who we are, right? And then once we get those stories, we can identify, which is the I in the formula, and we can identify what our limiting beliefs are. And based on those stories, and these are exercises I take people through. And then once they identify, they're like, oh yeah, like I can see where that happened when I was, 3 or 4. And then they see an affirmation again when they're 5 or 6. And then they see it again when they're a teenager. And now they're aware. And now they've identified what their limiting beliefs are. And then the R stands for realize. So realize that you created your limiting beliefs based on a circumstance that happened during that time. And now you're an adult and things are different. So you can actually change what you believe. You can actually switch out of what you believe. And then the M is just stands for move forward. So once you've gone through that formula and you've acknowledged and you've found your life events and you've identified what your limiting beliefs are, then you realize that you can actually shift those. Now it's time for you to move forward. And it's a simple little formula, but it does really powerful. It's a powerful message for people to actually get away from that plateau.
And it's good to know that, because sometimes those are simple things that we know about, but we don't take the time to sit down and really apply and implement them. And we keep on, in a way, we think that we will be able to move. We get busy and all kind of things, but we are the same. We stay at the same, at the same level. And by the time we realize, we've lost so much time and so much money as well in the process.
I
So
work with
that's
so many coaches who are just, they're like, Jayne, this is what I work with people on. I teach people, I help people with their mindset, or, I have part of this in my program. Why can't I do this for myself? You know what? I tell people, don't beat yourself up. Just know that this is what happens, and then find somebody to help you go through it. Because often as coaches and consultants and, people who are running businesses, we're just so in the forest, that old expression, like, you can't see the trees for the forest. Well, it's really true. You're in your business, you're in your coaching practice, and you forget what's actually stopping you. And so it's really important that you, do the work with whoever. And, sometimes it's reading a book. Sometimes it's just, listening to a podcast, listening to a talk show. But whatever it is, make sure that you're doing it, because this is what moves us forward.
fantastic. So we're going to take a break and we'll be back. We'll be back to continue this very exciting conversation, I must say, and really, delve deep, into Jayne knowledge. But don't go anywhere. We'll be back in few minutes.
I honestly don't think that it has anything to do with investing or not having the funds to invest in something that is going to help you reach your goals or help you develop a specific skill or grow your business. It's all about a scarcity mindset. There are so many people that are afraid of stepping out of their comfort zone. They are afraid of leaving what they know best, right? That is not giving them any satisfaction, or maybe not giving them any result, but they rather stay there because it's comfortable, because they've been there, because they know what they are going to expect every single day or every single month. It's nothing new. So when it comes to taking the step to investing in what you know is going to give you the results, it's pushing you. It's like literally pushing you out of that comfort zone where you have been for so long. So that scarcity mindset is what holds people back, holds them back from being the best version of themselves, meaning stepping into what they're truly supposed to do in their life, or stepping into something that, slowly they're going to discover that that's what they're meant to do, to change people's lives, to start a lucrative business, utilizing all of the skills and talents and all of their experience instead of staying stuck where they're currently at. That scarcity mindset of not trusting in yourself, not believing in yourself that you have what it takes to step out and actually take action. Even if it's something new, even if you don't have enough experience, even if you are afraid of failure. But until you step out of that scarcity mindset that is holding you back and will continue to hold you back, you're never going to know if it was worth it or not. That's where the real problem is. It's not about not having the budget or not having the money. It's about Am I ready to leave fear behind and actually trust myself enough to do something that I'm going to not only make money from, but also enjoy and love? Because that is what it's all about. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone into something that you're truly going to love. But you're not going to know that if you stay stuck.
So, what do you think of this scarcity mindset and how it really affects, any entrepreneur, and do you see it with people that you mentor, and how do you actually help them to get over it?
Yeah, absolutely. Scarcity mindset is definitely, again, there's many different things, and it's really, I can't, reiterate this enough. It's really about the stories that you have in your own life. So that's why, you can be in a family of 2 or 3 or 5 kids, and your siblings think totally differently than you do because you internalized the life events that happened differently than they did. So some people, will be in a situation where money is a lack, definitely in the family, and they will come out of that with a mindset of having scarcity. Scarcity is real. Scarcity is something that they have to be afraid of, and maybe they become hoarders. Maybe they hoard their money and don't do any good with it, right? And then there could be somebody else in the family who that didn't affect them the same way. And maybe they have a different mentality because of that and because of how they internalized it. And they've used that as a driving force for them to create, a new vision for people, to create a business that is sustainable and helps other people. So I think everybody has definitely a limiting belief, whether it's I don't deserve it, whether there's scarcity in the world, whether it's money is for somebody else, there's so many different limiting beliefs and everybody has a different one. And I think it's really important to find out what yours is, because that kind of follows you in your whole path, your whole life. I don't believe that you can ever actually get rid of a limiting belief. I believe that you need to become aware of it and you need to continually work on it. And I think you can delve into different levels of it. And I think you can, sooner than later, you can stop that limiting belief from affecting you. But I think it's this is what keeps us safe. And this is what keeps us moving forward. There's many times where I've had a couple of years where, I'm really good on the whole trust issue. And, I've allowed people to come into my business and I've allowed people to, do things and be autonomous. And I've really trusted processes. And then there's other times where I find myself stepping back into that feeling of, I can't trust. And it's because some things have happened that I haven't felt comfortable with. And so now I start getting in that mindset again, and it's not serving me. And, depending on where I'm at and what stage I'm at, I'm able now to quickly get out of it and realize this is what I'm doing. And this is how I'm sabotaging myself. So this is what I think is really important, is that you figure out what your key limiting belief is, and then just continually work on it. And don't beat yourself up because you have it, because we all have them, just know that, okay, this is what mine is, and I need to work on that. And I need to continuously check in with myself and make sure that I'm doing what's the best thing based on what I know that I can get stuck in.
And that's important. Those know exactly those triggers, and really be able to respond, with the right, the right process, so that you don't fall down or you don't relapse. And I think sometimes we forget that, like you said, we're not perfect. There's always gonna be those limiting beliefs, in our life. But the key thing is to understand when, feel when they're coming, and be able to respond quickly to address them when it's required. But I think you mentioned that you've been able to, several times to build really, you know, seven figures businesses, $1 million businesses, but then being you went back again.
Yep.
So we are in a very challenging period for a lot of people with the pandemic, things being completely shut, people who've lost their businesses. So what would what would you recommend, and what will be the main message for those people as they're really drowning into their feelings, their negative feelings, and losing hope?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we hear some really awesome stories that have come out of the pandemic, where people have really shifted things around and done things they never thought they could possibly do. And then we hear some really sad stories of, people losing everything because they just weren't able to shift and change and pivot and whatever word we want to use, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's really important is a couple of things. One is to stay focused on why you do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're, I would think most of your guests who are listening to this, they're really all about serving and serving people in a way that meets them, at their point in life. So when you keep that in mind, I think it's easier to shift and change and figure out what's the next way that you can serve people in that powerful way. So if I use my husband and I, Steve, we run a business together, Deep Thought Strategy. And until the pandemic, we actually traveled all over the world from Canada and spoke at live events. So we were away, 2-3 weeks out of every month. We were on the road, speaking at speaker associations, different events, holding our own events around the world. And we got back from South Africa and Namibia on February the 28th. We had just spoke at a global speaking summit in Namibia. And we had 4 big events planned, March, April, and came back. And in Canada, everything shut down on March the 13th. And so here we were. We did not have an online business. Yes, we taught people our programs online. Mm-hmm. That's how, because we had met them somewhere, wherever that was, New Zealand or South Africa or Singapore, it didn't matter. But we would teach them when we got back home or when we were on the road. But we didn't find our clients and the people that we needed to serve. We didn't find them any other way except at a live event. And so it was like, okay, what do we do? Like, we had never even, we talked about we should have an online business, but we had never really pursued it. We didn't have time to. Mm-hmm. So we sat down and said, okay, listen, we could sit here and hope that the pandemic is going to be over in 2-3 months, or we can be proactive and use this time to actually do something that we've always wanted to do, but never had the time to do it. Mm-hmm. And, I think most people, what happens is you get into this, I call it like squirrel mode, right? You want to bring all your nuts in and you want to hibernate because, the bad time is coming. Mm-hmm. And what happens when you do that is, yes, you can hide your resources and yes, you can protect, the money that you have, but you're not actually expanding your mind. You're not actually expanding what the possibilities are. So we did 2 crazy things. One was we were about to build a kind of like our dream home, right? Mm-hmm. On the river. And so we had been living in a small space, renting, and, just because our plan was to build this house. So we didn't need anything right at that moment. And I said to Steve, there's no way we can stay here and be in a pandemic. Like this is not going to happen. Every time we needed to, do a live or go online, we had to rearrange our entire house to make this happen, right? So this was not going to happen. So we found a massive house that will be perfect when the pandemic is over to hold retreats and have, people come here, which is what we love to do in addition. It's also on the river. And so within 4 weeks of everything shutting down here in Ottawa, we had moved to our dream home. And we sold our property and decided not to build because we had found the perfect house. And so that was the first thing we did. We weren't scared, we did that. And the second thing we took a very large sum of money and decided that we would invest in online. And that was a big thing for me, because again, not trusting, right? Is this going to work? Is this going to be something, or what's going to happen? And we've had, some of it has worked great and some of it hasn't. But it was the best thing that we ever did, because it got us moving. And we weren't just sitting around, you hear so many stories, like people are baking and cooking, and, now they're all like trying to figure out how they're going to, get rid of some of that weight that they've gained, and all the time they were just, not focusing on something else, but just, getting great food in their body. And so we didn't have time for any of that. We just got moving, and we said, okay, let's get in the online space. Let's figure it out. And I would say, honestly, that it really took us the year to do that. And it's really only been since like last December-ish, November, December, that we really got a lot of it figured out and are starting to have success now with, because, we're authentic people, and I don't want to just, tap into somebody's Facebook or their LinkedIn and say, hi, I'm Jayne, how can I help you? So it's been how do we create that presence that people want to engage with us, that people want to, see what we have to offer, and see if it's a good fit or not a good fit. I only want to serve people that it's a good fit for. I'm not looking to sell anybody anything. It has to feel good for people. So so those are the, that's what I suggest to people. Like, you follow your dreams, do what you think is the right thing to do, and just keep going, and don't worry. Stop worrying.
And exactly, don't worry, it's not going to change anything. You're there, you've lost everything. If that's the case, it's not going to come back, so you can only go forward, and worrying about what's going to come up, but not worrying about what you've lost, because it's gone. And that's the difficult things to do, because people get attached to all the things, so their business, their everything, and sometimes they forget that the wealth is actually here. It's
so
inside
true.
of us. If we've done something great before, we can just use the same process. It's gonna take time, but we can just reproduce it, and I think that's probably what you've done. I mean, you've built those businesses and then lost some of them, and then you keep on coming back, which means that you never stay down.
Yes.
At some point you always come back and find a way to get there. And I love what you said, is that you have to focus on the why you are doing all of this, because that's really what's gonna maintain you when things are really challenging.
Yeah.
Because you know that you're on a mission, you're trying to accomplish something, and it gives you all the strength and determination to keep going.
I work on mindset, and I help people with mindset, but that's not the front facing, what we do as a business. And what we do as a business is we really help people to learn how to speak about themselves in a way that makes them be the authority and to stand out from their competition. That's what we do as a business. And, I loved what you just said, because if we had stopped what we were doing and kind of said, dug our feet in, and like, the only way we find clients is at live events. Look at all the people that would not be getting what they need to get from us, which is a different way of speaking about their business, so that they can stand out, so that in this pandemic, they can actually be the chosen person for whatever it is that they're coaching, or however, they help other people. And so it was so important for us just to figure it out, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to help people. And that's really our passion. And I'd love to go back just for a minute and share with your listeners, a lot of people, when I started coaching, so I closed my business in 2010. So we got it to $11 million. And because of everything that happened in the US in 2008, where the majority of our clothing was going, because of the whole financial downturn, retailers were just not buying from people like us. They were actually buying themselves overseas. And we were kind of the fill-in, the 10%, where, they couldn't get a style, or they needed fast delivery, that kind of thing. And so I could see by 2010, like there was just going to be no business there. In fact, in 2009, our business probably would have done about 15, 16 million. And we were able to maintain it still around 10, 11. But I could see for 2010, forget it. It wasn't going to happen. The orders weren't happening. Buyers were, not wanting to take our calls. And I said, we need to close this. And I really want to go into coaching people, because now I had fell in love with being coached. I wanted to impart my wisdom on other people. And so I was married at the time, not to Steve. And I said to my then husband, we need to close this down. And I want to go into coaching. And we had X amount of dollars, certainly not enough to retire. We were too young to retire, and we just didn't have, the finances. And so I said, you need to keep things going. He was kind of doing a different other little business that was his passion. I said, I'm not going to make money for 2 years. Like, this is what I can foresee. I'm going to learn, I'm going to study, I'm going to travel, I'm going to go to the gurus, I'm going to figure out how to take what I have and impart this knowledge to other people. So what happened was that by 2012, we actually had no money left. And for me, I was coaching people by this time, and I couldn't tell people my story because I was embarrassed, and I was humiliated, and I was ashamed. And people were saying to me, as I was coaching, like now into like 2012, 2013, and they'd say, Jayne, you don't understand. Like, you've had an $11 million business. You don't get, like, it's just not that easy. And I couldn't tell people because I was trying to sort it out in my own mind. I was in that stage of the blame game. So I was blaming my husband at the time, then became my ex-husband. We, just didn't survive that. Our children were gone, and I think our life had been our business, and our path together had ended. And I wanted to blame him because I had always given my power up around money. I'd always given him all the money. I didn't care. It was just money. It's energy. It's going to come and go. And so I had a lot of blame. And I had somebody in 2016, I was working with him for a whole day. It was a one-day client. And he said to me, Jayne, obviously you're a millionaire. This was at the end of the day, right? And I said, yeah, because in my head, I was a millionaire still, right? And I came in, and by this time, Steve and I were together. And I said to him, this is so unauthentic for me. How can I be the 7-figure mindset mentor, have lost everything? Nobody knows my story. I need to have another $1 million business. And so we sat down and talked about it, and we decided to combine my business, his business, and create our own, which we now call S&J Training Solutions. And, I said, I want to have $1 million business in 2017, and we're going to make it happen. And so we did. We had our first in 2017, we had our first $1 million business. And I said to him, I want to get on a stage in 2018, and I want to tell my story. Now, I was nervous. I was sick to my stomach about even thinking about it. And as you know, the universe is so wonderful because it always gives you whatever it is you ask for. And so the same guy that asked me if I was a millionaire, he was running a public speaking kind of motivational thing every Monday in Ottawa. And he asked me in January 2018 if I would get on the stage and speak. Now, he thought I was going to talk about mindset and how I'd helped him. And he had generated $20,000 in a month after working with me. And he thought I was going to talk about that whole story. So when I met with him, just because he likes to go over, what you're going to talk about. And I told him my story, that I had lost everything and that I was not a millionaire when he asked me the question. His mouth was like, the whole time. And I got on the stage in January 2018, and in front of a lot of people that I had worked with or knew us. Ottawa's a very small town. And I told my story, and I was nervous, and I still hadn't worked out all my, anger still at that point. And I felt like I had to tell everything, every little nuance, like I had to tell everybody, how it happened, why it happened. No, I didn't. And fortunately, Steve helped me craft that. And it felt so good to tell it. And then my clients kept saying to me, Jayne, this is awesome, because now when you tell us we have to do something or, shift your mindset, now we know you had to do the same thing. And now it feels really good for us that we know that you get where we're coming from. And so it was a really big lesson for me that people do want to know that you've had hardships like them, because nobody's perfect. The world is not perfect. And it made me real to them, and it made them understand that I also had to overcome my own mindset issues. Again, forget just the trust, but how did I go from having everything to having nothing? And how do I build that up again? And what do I believe in myself? And, what did I have to work through? And so, I hope that you have some listeners on here who are going through some difficult times, that they can take inspiration from this story. And, I got to the point where I had beautiful jewelry. I had to sell my jewelry to eat. I had to sell my furniture. At one point, we were over $1 million in debt. And it wasn't easy debt to get rid of, because, we were able to sell our big house and, get through about 400,000, but then we still were left with over $500,000. And so, it's not easy. When I had never had debt in my life, I had never, paid my credit cards every month. It was just a really hard time. And I think, that time I wanted so desperately to coach people. I think I needed to go through that to have compassion and understanding for the people I work with. So,
and that's important to, because then all the feelings, how they, how hard it can be. And then it brings the best out of you, because you've lived it, and you really want to bring it out and help people. And really preach, and I think for people it's about preaching what you implementing what you preach. Because it's, there's a lot of people telling all kind of things, but like your mentee, your coachee were saying, they don't relate, they were not relating to you, but now with this story they're like, okay, she's done it, she's doing well now, so there's hope, and she knows what she's talking about. So that's really good. So thanks for sharing, this that's a powerful story, and I know, especially when you've been up, and had, success, to admit, when things are not going well, it's a real struggle, because people, they don't want to be judged, they don't want to be categorized, they're afraid of all kind of, negative feedback, and it can actually, make them stuck, where they are, and not react at all. So we're gonna have our last break, and we come back again and finish on this very, very insightful conversation, and I hope the audience is enjoying it. And for those who are going to watch the replay, please, let us know what you think, and put your remark and anything that you feel like we need to know in the comment box. But for the time being, let's have a short break and come back with Jayne to finish on the show today. So we are back. We are back with Jen, and we are talking about the mindset today. And I hope that you, for those who have been watching from the beginning, I hope you're enjoying it. You've taken a lot of notes, and the next step would actually be to implement. And if you need help, you will have to come back and connect with Jane to get the right knowledge, right coaching, and right mentoring for you to go to the next level, or for you to go through the challenges that you are going through right now. So just I wanted to ask you, Jane. I mean, you've been working with a lot of people. You've traveled globally before the pandemic. So what are the key thing? What are the key challenge to be a global to work with a global audience, because things are different. Those are different culture. You probably came across different culture, different way of doing business. So just want to know how did you navigate all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never really thought about it. um, because, for me, I just love people. Like this is, I think, the thing I love the most about being in the business I'm in now compared to the clothing business. The clothing business, I had my buyers that I sold to, and that was great. But I didn't get to meet, a multitude of people. And I just love the fact that when we go to events, we get to meet people. I like to meet people deeply. I don't like, I'm not a surface meter, right? I want to know about them. I want to know what their desires are and what their fears are, and everything that goes with it. And so I think the biggest challenge for me was the culture didn't really affect me. I mean, I would ask questions and I would learn about, what they faced or where they are, and, what different situations are. But I think what's happened is I had no idea how I was going to connect everybody together. How was I, because we would go to South Africa, or we would go to New Zealand, or we would go to Australia, or we would go to Singapore or the UK, or where, whatever. Then how would I connect all that when I would come back home? And I like to say we also run something that's called When Global, Wealthy Entrepreneurs Network Global. It's once a month, and people come, and it's a full day training, and we bring in guest speakers, and it's a real learning, networking kind of thing. And we called it When Global before we even had any idea how that was going to become global. And we had done 3 live events with this When Global, and the pandemic hit. Well, it was a no-brainer to us. We were like it was the beginning of April, and I said to Steve, let's get this online. Let's do this via Zoom. Let's really be global, right? And so we were able to bring those people in, and to really just serve them at where they're at, and what it is they need. And time changes being a little bit of an issue, just with we were actually have a lot of clients in New Zealand, and so we went there 5 times in a year and a half to serve them in person. And it's easier, obviously, in person than it is time change, because, as you know, it being in Australia with North America, the time can be a little bit. But what we find is, people just meet us wherever they're at and whatever they need, and they make it work. So I don't know. It's a very interesting question. I've just never really thought about it, because I think at a deep level, people are just people, and they'll tell us what it is, where they're struggling. I think we all struggle in the same way, maybe just a little different, but we all have the same struggles, and we all have the same limiting beliefs, and we all have the same, way that we're going to move forward, which is just, one foot at a time, and learn what you need to learn.
And I love this answer, because purposely I ask it, and it's just to you just basically confirming what I thought is that, mindset is, it's an universal thing. It's not about the culture, it's not about
Mhm.
the way you look like, it's not about how you were raised. The mindset works, just the same for anybody. And when you get to, have the right mindset, you get the same results wherever you are. And that's important to say, because I think sometimes we tend to give to find excuses when things are not working. We might say, oh, it's because this person is there, or it's because this person is ahead of this. But sometimes it's just the mindset that actually needs to shift and change for
I,
for
I
anybody to get to the next level.
I think you have to, again, it goes back to your life events. And yes, of
Mm-hmm.
course, some people who are in different parts of the world are going to have maybe extreme or different life events than other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we all have the ability to shift our mindset. We
Mm-hmm.
all have the ability to look at what it is that's got us to where we are
Mm-hmm.
and to shift that. And it doesn't matter where you are and in what country you are and in what your circumstance has been, because you'll just go to wherever it is you want to go,
Mm-hmm.
once you
Mm-hmm.
shift your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's universal. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you just,
Okay, all right. So that's fantastic. So we're getting to the end of the almost to the end of the show, but there's a question that I really love to ask all my guests is about the legacy. And I know that you working, you have a why, and I really want to know what is your why and what is the legacy that you want to leave, doing everything that I mean, englobing everything that you've done, and where you really want to bring yourself to in the future, and what is the legacy that you want to leave.
great question. So I have four children. Three are with my previous husband. And so I have a 29-year-old and twins that are 28.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a stepdaughter who is also 28.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have two stepchildren from my previous marriage that are now 40 and 38.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what my legacy is, I believe, is to show my kids, all of my kids,
Mm-hmm.
that you can be and do whatever it is you want to do in your life. And my stepdaughter to this day still contacts me and, asks me questions. She's a vice president in a manufacturing company. And she's always asking me questions about, how do you lead, and how, if I shifted my mindset here, what would happen there? And I think for me, it's really important for me to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch my children are very independent, particularly my biological children, and
Mm-hmm.
they're extremely independent. And they've had to learn the hard way. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to learn
Mm-hmm.
by me telling them this is the way you should do it. They have to
Mm-hmm.
learn, and then they come back and say, I think you were right, mom, about that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've done for them is that I'm, showing them that here's how I've run a business. Here's how I've created a family. Here's how I've created a legacy for you. Here's where I made mistakes. Here's where
Mm-hmm.
it would be good for you not to make mistakes. But hey,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to make them, go for it. That's really what I think is so important. And this is the legacy I want to leave for my kids, is
Mm-hmm.
that they've watched me be successful, lose, go through a painful divorce, find an amazing partner, not be angry about anything. This is just life experience. Not
Mm-hmm.
be a victim for anything, just learn from it. And if I can leave that for my kids, if I can show them that, this is what life is all about, learning and growing and going for your dreams, then I
Mm-hmm.
think I've done a great job.
Fantastic. That's very powerful, and I really love I love this legacy, and I think in a way we all working for that, especially as parents. We always want to leave lead by example, and be role models for our children, and make sure that they learn from our journey, our experiences, and so they can do even more than us, more and better than us, because that's what it's all about. So before we leave, just want to know, is there anything that you want to share that is happening on your side that you want the audience to know? And how do people get to connect with you if they want to continue this conversation or know about your services, if they're interested?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Well, I think the best way is I love to have conversations. And the way I found that that works really well is for people to come to our Facebook group. So it's a private group. It's called Coaches/Consultants. And then there's a colon, and it's how to become the unmistakable authority and make more sales. I know it's a big, long tagline, but if people connect with us on Facebook, I love to have conversations in Messenger, and just to get to know. I can see your profile, I can see what your interests are, what you love, what you're up to, because that's really important to me. So, or you can connect with me just on my personal profile, which is Jayne with a Y, Jayne Lowell, and I'm in Ottawa. I look like this. There's no fancy picture. I have got a picture that looks like me on there. So, just connect. I'd love to have a conversation with anybody who wants to.
So I've just put the name of the group here, so you can search it on Facebook, and then please join and get connected with Jayne. And it's a fantastic group. You will learn so much, but you can also directly connect with her on Facebook using her name, Jayne Lowell, and then you are in business. And I know that you're going to learn so much from her, because especially in this time, where there are quite a lot of challenges as a business owner, we're trying to find, solutions and get, keep going. I think she's the right person to do that. So thank you so much, Jayne, for your time and for sharing your knowledge and your experience here, for really openly. And it's been a great, great conversation. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot myself. And I really look forward to. I'm part of the group now, so really look forward to get to connect further and really learn from whoever is member of the group, and from you and also your husband. Thank you so much. Thanks to the audience, and I hope that you've taken notes, just like like the what we do normally, what I ask you to do, but don't stop at taking notes. You need to act as well, implement. And if you're trying to move forward, there are specialists around, and Jen is one of them. So you heard that coaches have been part of her success, and really don't be afraid, and just take the step and reach out to her. So thank you very much, and I'll be back. I'll be back on Friday for another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show. Thank you very much, and thank you, Jayne, again for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.